A drama played out on Tuesday as some senators walked the Minister of State, Labor and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo, SAN, out of the meeting. The lawmakers had invited Keyamo to give details of the Special Public Works, SPW, where 700,074 people would be recruited by the federal government under the National Directorate of Employment, NDE. During the meeting, which was held at the National Assembly in Abuja, where members of the Senate and House of Representatives Joint Committee on Labor sought to find out the method of selection of a 20-man committee from each state for the program. However, a heated argument erupted between committee members and Keyamo over who should be in charge of the program. As the rowdy session was on, the committee decided to go into a closed-door session to discuss the matter, but the minister refused, insisting that further discussions be held in the presence of journalists. This enraged the lawmakers, who told Keyamo to apologize to the committee, but he ignored them. In a statement signed by Festus Keyamo after the disagreement, Keyamo insisted that the lawmakers were not empowered by the Nigerian constitution to dictate to the executive arm of government. In his words, listen to him: "I regret to say that their powers under Section 88 of the 1999 Constitution is only limited to investigations, but not to give directive to the executive." The Minister of State described that as tantamount to challenging the powers of the President. It was purported that the Joint Committee of the Senate and House of Representatives on Labor suspended the work of the selection committees nationwide until they decide how the program should run. This will be our focus today on the episode of The Patriot on Television Nigerian. I am Peggy Shandy.
To Nigeria, my country. So goes the opening lines of the 6-line National Pledge of Nigeria. Today, not a few, whether young or old, merely recite the National Pledge as a matter of routine or tradition, with their hearts being poles apart from the very spirit, creed, and essence of the pledge. Many simply do not understand its purport or feel the import of it, while many others choose to observe the pledge in breach only. Today we have decided to walk on the footpath of the very words of the National Pledge, keeping its vision and essence in our hearts, in our souls, and in our minds.
I pledge Nigeria, my country,
to be faithful,
loyal, and honest,
to serve Nigeria with all my strength,
to defend her unity,
and uphold her honor and glory.
So help me God. Nigeria, no doubt, will truly be the giant of Africa, developed and well rated in all indices, if her national pledge is treated with sacred obedience. It's on us, it's our duty and responsibility to make this country a better place. Let's live the pledge.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying tuned. This is The Patriot on Television Nigerian, and our guest to join us discuss this very disturbing topic will be Mazi Dixon Irobu, a renowned political critic, social crusader, the anchor Nigeria right now, and founder, Greenword Dialogue. And also, to join Mazi Dixon will be CSP James Van der Fan, retired, a former commander SARS, FCT Abuja, a security consultant on fraud and EFCC-related matters. He worked with EFCC and a public affairs analyst. Mazi Dixon and CP Van der Fan, welcome to the Patriot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank you very much for appearing here today in the studios of the television Nigerian on the Patriot. And I want to go straight to Mazi. Our focus today is why the National Assembly was in a tussle with one of the members of the federal cabinet members, member of the Federal Executive Council member, in the person of Festus Keyamo. S.A.N. And so what do you look at that whole squabble that happened at the National Assembly? I just want to start with you.
Well, first of all, thank you again for the privilege to be here. You see, I'm a filmmaker, first of all. That's what I'm known with. I'm a filmmaker. And so watching them, I could see actors, overacting. Because it was unnecessary, You ask, what was the issue? You have a party in government, they are majority in the House of Reps, they are the majority in the Senate. And here they had a member of the executive arm defending whatever project it was they were executing, and still of the same party. And you saw that shameful act of rowdy session, because it was unnecessary. Those shouting moments, you were wondering, what was it that was the issue? For me, I think, sincerely, from the minister's point of view, I think he overreacted. I think sincerely overreacted. The National Assembly has an oversight function on the executive arm of government, and that's what they were doing. So if, according to what process they had, they wanted to go to a private session, an executive session, or whatever it was called, I don't think it was right for him to challenge them right there before the media. I think it was unnecessary, sincerely. But it tells you sincerely that the House is collapsing. The APC, I have defined them as an NGO, because it's a gathering of bursts of strange feathers, right? Or bursts of strange, whatever it is that is the case here. I think the APC is collapsing terribly. The earlier they realized that they are shifting focus away from governance, the better for them, because they are shifting completely away from focusing on improving the lives of Nigerians. The debate that is going on there, you could see, is about 2023. Suspicion about, the guy is positioning for 1,000 employments and all of that against 2023 and all of that. So, for me, it's a shameful act.
Okay,
it just simply tells you that the House is collapsing.
Thank you very much,
collapsing shamefully.
Thank you very much, Mazi. You saw a movie in that whole thing.
Yes. Actors acting badly.
Thank you very much. CPC, CSP James Commander, may I have the privilege to also return the microphone to you now so that you can say something. How do you look at the whole thing?
Well, thank you for having me once again on your medium here. It's just as Mazi said, it's an embarrassing thing to see minister and National Assembly committee members shouting to the public for an issue that was not supposed to be a serious argumentative something like that. Because if the minister really want to expose what he felt was the wrongs that the National Assembly wanted him to achieve, he didn't go there alone, he went with some directors. He would have allowed them to go into the private session with him, with his own directors, and then listen to what they were saying, and then tell them that he may not do what they want him to do. Exactly. Come out and address the press that, okay, I went into the private session, this is what transpired, These are my witnesses.
Exactly.
And it would have been what Nigerians would have wanted to hear.
Yes.
But when you just predict that if I go into a private session, they're not going to kill you there, they're not going to force you to sign a document there. You don't know what they're going to tell you in there. You just presume that they're going to hijack the project from you. It would have been from experiences of what he was going through with them, but for me, I feel it was premature for him to go into that kind of shouting match when there was really no reason for him to do that. So it's unfortunate.
That's completely unnecessary.
All right, so thank you very much. So what happened if he would have already understood that the politics of Nigeria, you don't even engage in the first place? Yeah.
The politics of Nigeria?
Yeah, then politics, his interaction with politics in Nigeria.
Yes.
And he's already known. He knows that in another way, it is possible that you don't engage in a closed-door session with people like this in the first place.
No.
And so, what if that was that situation?
No.
And so he started to truncate the whole process.
That particular process was not activated because he came there. It has always been the tradition of the House of Reps and the Senate. Moments of disagreement that they don't want, probably the public to see how they handled, they can go to a private session. It's allowed. That doesn't mean I am siding the National Assembly. That doesn't mean that I'm supporting whatever ills that probably they had in mind against the project or whatever it was. The point I'm making is that the reaction from the minister was unnecessary. He jumped the gun. If he was out to expose their corrupt act or corrupt ways of doing things in the National Assembly, he didn't do it well. I was disappointed. And SAN, he knows the process. He knows that is allowed within the National Assembly. There are moments you go for private session. It's allowed. So if you now go in there and what like Maoga here said, clearly if they go there, nobody is putting a gun on you. Nobody is going to force you to do what is not right. And in fact, that should have been an opportunity for you to get your facts right. So you come to the public, since the government that you're serving is anti-corruption government, you can now have your facts to present to the public.
It's okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. CSP, please, can you please throw more light on that?
Yes.
And the question is, he went into a House committee arrangement on labor and employment.
Yeah.
The chairman of both houses, the Senate
and the House
of Representatives, in one place.
Yes. And members.
No. Get the question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how else that arrangement itself was not an in-house arrangement enough to go yet into another inner session.
No.
And so he didn't see reason. No, I'm preempting now.
Yes.
And I wanted to answer that.
Okay.
So that you can, what do you think that Keyamo would have been thinking?
Well, for me, whatever he was thinking inside his mind, he overblew the whole thing, and he missed the opportunity, just as Mazi said. Now, if you want to expose corruption, there are certain ways you can do it. When you go into the private session with these people and you come out and you tell the nation that this is what these people want me to do, it will not put a dent on what people have been suspecting about the antics of National Assembly, trying to hijack a lot of things. Now, just as he said, if you look at appointments in the government today, it's a president that is ruling Nigeria. It's the National Assembly of Nigeria. But 90% of appointments so far made by this administration are all given to APC members. Now, this is an APC minister that was going in to meet committee chairmen that were from his own party. There was no need for him to start shouting there. But if you look at the pre-election area of Mr. Keyamo, you discover that he was known for controversies like this also. And his own earlier ministry where he was before his Niger data, if you look at what Akpabio did, it's almost the same thing that happened yesterday, because Akpabio also decided not to accept the board members that were already inaugurated by the National Assembly, and went on to also institute his own ad hoc members that can go and investigate the NDDC. Now, these are ministers that are within the cabinet that are screened by the National Assembly. And if this National Assembly screen you, you are still going back to them tomorrow for appropriation. You are still going back to them tomorrow to request for so many other things that you want approved for your own ministry. So if you don't create a rapport today with the National Assembly members, there's no way you can have development in your own ministry because they may frustrate whatever you want to bring to them. And that means the masses are going to suffer. So for me, Keyamo would have been patient enough to listen to them so that he can come out to tell the nation that behind the scene, this is what I was asked to do, and I say, no, I'm not going to do it.
Exactly.
So it would have been better for us to be informed that, oh, most of the closed-door session goes in because of negotiation with the ministers on how they can take a cut-off from the ministries, as against what is felt that this is an anti-corruption government. So for me, I felt he overreacted, actually.
All right, thank you very much, the CSP. Mazi, you have really spoken well. I appreciate you so much because you've been able to hit the point as it is.
I appreciate it.
And you have made me understood stuff here. But I want us to understand something. Our teaming viewers are also listening keenly. They want to understand. Now, what is the primary statutory role of the National Assembly? And then the principle of separation of powers. Can you just give us, so to what extent is it not right for National Assembly to do their job? And in this matter, on this case, that Keyamo had a rush with them. I mean, I wanted to look at it from giving us the perspective, what National Assembly is actually statutory by the Constitution to do.
Yes.
And where, in this case, they would have
stepped
their boundaries.
Well, I don't think there was any moment they overstepped their boundary. Because that's why I said the minister missed an opportunity to establish that.
So what is the role?
There was no moment they were doing their job. So the role of the National Assembly is well spelled out in the Constitution of Nigeria. Make laws for the country, oversight function. And that moment was oversight function moment. Oh, you have this project, right? Okay, come on, give us an account. How is it going to be executed? And while on it, maybe there were areas that shouldn't be public at that time because the media was there. Maybe there were moments they could, fine-tune this area or do it in a way that, because they're part of the government. There are three arms of government, for goodness sake. And at that moment, all they asked you to do was, okay, we've heard, blah, 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 you've been invited, you've come. Okay, fine. We want to have a private moment with you. At private moments, politics is about negotiation. There are different interests here represented. The regions can be discussed at the private moment. That, for instance, look at the loan that the government of the day, took, and a particular region, a major region, my tribe, the southeastern region was not captured. And they are going to be part of the repayment of this loan. So, moments like that, you could go to a private session, so you discuss areas that are not captured properly. And I think, sincerely, like I said, the minister just missed an opportunity to become a champion in the Buhari government. He missed an opportunity. He just went out there and as far as I'm concerned, played to the gallery. And for me, I was disgusted.
So at what point?
I was terribly disgusted. So the accusation that the National Assembly was trying to infiltrate in the executive arm is a fallacy. It's a fallacy as far as I am concerned, because it's not established that they said, you shouldn't do the project. Nobody said anything like that. And if they are asking you for a certain negotiation to be allowed, I think it's allowed. Because if, for instance, I am from Imo State, and I see that, you gave to Benue, your state, maybe more than Imo State, I will query it. As a National Assembly member, I will ask, is this sharing, what it ought to be? Is equity on the table? Is justice on the table? Is fairness on the table? Those moments are things you discuss in the private
in this case,
sitting.
This case is very simple. Every state to take 2020 members of the committee.
Yes.
It's a presidential committee.
Yes.
Straight to the point.
Yes.
20-man committee. So I don't know what was going to be, who was going to be given more than who?
No. I just gave that as an instance. Because the minister, when he came out, he said to the media clearly that they were asking for a certain percentage. It's allowed.
All right, so Commander, please.
It's allowed.
Well,
Commander,
let's listen to Commander.
Yes, the minister himself said he gave National Assembly members 15%.
He said 10 or 15%.
10 or 15% of the total number of people that are supposed to be on the committee. So that was a fair share. Now, also, those who have selected, yes, they are from the grassroots. You are looking at camp members, or looking at the traditional rulers, and then the project groups in the villages. Now, they are going to do a very good job in terms of selection. But the whole process is this. This project is going to last for 3 months. Then after 3 months, what happens to this project?
Exactly.
Now, you empower me for 3 months, and then I work. Then you go to states where you still have challenges like Borno, or like in Yobe, where people don't go to work, or people are scared of going out. Now, what happens to people that you are going to recruit there? Are they going to sweep only the state capitals, where you have enough security, or you are going to go to villages like Bama and still have these people sweeping the streets there? It's not going to be feasible. So these are things I expect the minister would have gone in to also explain to those who are the National Assembly members that wanted to have a private session with him. Now, when you also look at this tendency of going into a shouting match with the National Assembly members, it was obvious that the minister went in there with a predetermined mind of not doing what the National Assembly wanted. So that opportunity came for him, and then he exploded. It is immaturity on the part of the minister. So I feel that when you are working in a system where it's the same political party, minister is supposed to be better off than that.
Let's take a very short break. We're going to take a very short break, and then we will come back, and so we'll be dealing with that. You know, part of the clips are there, and so we're going to watch the clip, and so that we'll take a very short break, and when we return, we will discuss deeper.
Listen to me. This is not a place to grandstand. 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 We are doing serious business here. How can you expose corruption without the cameras? They are not exceptional. We have many ministers who say
to investigate. If you look at your constitution, sir, and says what? Expose corruption. That is your power, sir. To expose corrupt practices. Therefore, if Parliament comes out with a report saying somebody is corrupt, the Parliament has spoken truth, because that is your power to expose corruption. So when the United States Senate says somebody has brought slush funds to the United States and the person is corrupt, we are within our right to call the person corrupt, because an institution that is given that power to pronounce corruption has pronounced that person corrupt. That is the difference, sir. We cannot call the person a convict. But we can call the person corrupt. And that is why we respect the Parliament here so much, even within Nigeria. Your reports regarding public officers, we don't play with them. We are
in Parliament seriously. Let's leave that.
Hold
on, anybody. Let me just finish my comment. My comment to you is that you know that you have started playing dirty on this your role.
I am not playing dirty, sir.
No, hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish. I have to finish my question. When you now answer, then you can now answer. Because my own is that I'm convinced that, because I know your antecedents, you are a civil rights lawyer, you are a vibrant lawyer, and maybe that's why the EFCC is using you and they are getting results. And going further into election, and you are to speak for a campaign, I believe that sitting on this board may be injurious to the board. So let's leave the issue of whether you, but that's just my opinion that you said, and I've substantiated it by saying I listened to you because I used the word corrupt. And I'm not a lawyer, but I know that you cannot call somebody corrupt without being, is he convicted? That's what the lawyer said, but that's for the law. So, but you, and I've seen you doing that. So, and we are just worried that sitting on this board while you are doing this job that you must do effectively and get.
Caution the chairman that in as much as we belong to different political parties, this exercise we are doing, screening these candidates, we should not bring too much politics into it. Like saying that the government is serving does not observe the rules of law, something like that. I think it's going too much.
Okay.
Don't bring too much politics. Bring too much politics. All of us will take political positions. Okay. And I believe here, sitting on this seat, it may find it tough to pass a decision because we are more in the majority here. We have at least 4 APC senators here on the seats. Mm-hmm. In fact, we have 5 APC, and we are only 2. So if we vote against you. But we are not going to vote against you. We will vote on the basis of the facts available to us. Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, don't go like passing judgment on our government. Our government is transparent. Our government is fighting corruption. Our government is changing Nigeria for better. And therefore, please don't go into that area.
The consent of all members and distinguished members as to whether I will answer the second leg of your question, because I thought we were deliberately trying to stay away from politics. But if you put me on the spot, I will have no choice but to respond. Because you are trying to put me on the spot by saying you don't call somebody corrupt when he has not been convicted and all that. But I'm trying to run away from all of that. I'm trying to stick to the issues here. But those are the issues, those are questions you just asked now. If I have the consent of everybody, I will avoid it.
Go ahead and answer.
I will avoid it and go to somebody else.
No, you can go ahead and answer. Answer the question.
Now, the courts in Nigeria, and that was about 2 days ago, and that is no less than the judicial pronouncement. They just held that if you release the list of corrupt persons, you have not infringed on their rights. This is because if you have facts to prove and call somebody corrupt, you are within your right to do so and call the person corrupt. Especially when that document has to do with the report of an institution that is imbued with the right to carry out investigation. What you cannot do is to call the person a convict. That is the difference. But you can call the person a corrupt person based on the report of Parliament. Parliament is imbued with the powers to investigate. If you look at your constitution, sir, and says what? Expose corruption. That is your power, sir. To expose corrupt practices. Therefore, if Parliament comes out with a report saying somebody is corrupt, the Parliament has spoken truth, because that is your power to expose corruption. So when the United States Senate says somebody has brought slush funds to the United States and the person is corrupt, we are within our right to call the person corrupt, because an institution that is given that power to pronounce corruption has pronounced that person corrupt. That is the difference, sir. We cannot call the person a convict. That's the, but we can call the person corrupt. And that is why we respect the Parliament here so much, even within Nigeria. Your reports regarding public officers, we don't play with them. We as lawyers. And in most cases, I've argued that those reports should form the foundation to prosecute people. When very distinguished members like you sit down and carry out your oversight functions over public officers, those reports should not be for the trash can. And I pray, sir, and I beg you, sir, that you should accord the same respect to your colleagues even from outside this country, in the United States, when they bring out such reports. So,
let me not be sentimental, but personally, I have been following all the write-ups of Keyamo. For me, I have been rating him as a very, very high responsible lawyer. Because even for school now, I have to go under school level. Yes, second class upper. It's not easy for anybody to read law. He's first class brain. All what he has been writing is very inspirational, very strict, and very comprehensive. So to me, Keyamo is an asset Not only NDIC, but us. Because now we are putting up a list that he must tell us the truth. And if he's not doing anything right, we can call him to order. We can call him to order. He's a board member, we can call him to order. If he's doing anything, this committee can still call him and say, why and why use this? Well, you are still under us. The MD can bring you up, the chairman can bring you up. So as far as I'm concerned, let us give him a chance. Go and do your job. And like rightly what my senior colleague said, His Excellency said, he said that if now we are going to vote, we'll outvote them. Because already APC is the majority. Like, if you want to win anything, go to APC.
Yeah.
PDP is just a new brand. APC is always the winner. So
anti-corruption project, and I don't see him tolerating any lawlessness or any act of a fraudulent, matter on this board. I think he is a very good asset, as a lawyer and as a very, outspoken person. And I think we shouldn't bring party issue or politics into this matter. I believe he's going to do very, very well.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us. This is the Patriot on television, Nigeria. And we have Mazi, Dixon, and CSP Van James.
Thank you so much.
You watched the clip itself. Yeah. I want you to react to that. I'll begin with you, sir.
Well, that was the board appointment screening. He was at his best trying to convince the National Assembly members to also give him the approval. And the contradiction was that he accorded them the opportunity of also investigating and then sanctioning those who are corrupt, and then call them whatever names he felt that was fine. But in the context of what has happened on Tuesday, yesterday, he differed on what he felt National Assembly has the constitutional powers to do. National Assembly, for me, did something that if you look at the two coins of what happened from the clips and then what he also did, you will now discover that Nigerians will speak to suit when we have an opportunity of becoming something. And when we are looking for something, yes, we can also speak with low tone. But once we get it, we can jump the other side of it. So the Senate Assembly was very humble talking to them. He has become someone shouting at them again. So we should be able to respect institutions and so much when we appear before them in whatever context that we want to appear, and so that people outside are learning and people outside are watching, not just in Nigeria. So whatever you do today becomes something that will be tied to you. If you can look at the way they were talking about his own credentials there. So I feel that when people have respect on you and you come back the second time, you should try to do something that people can know that there's a little dignity in what you are doing, and the relationship can go on. And then with that, we can have a harmonious relationship.
Thank you very much. Mazi, please.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the contradiction there is very obvious, that the arrogance of power played out on Tuesday. Because if you played these videos, two of them side by side, you could see this is a different Keyamo and this is a different Keyamo. And the first one, the one you played, which clearly he defended what the National Assembly is established for. The Parliament has a right to do its job. And when you are invited, they are representatives of the people. You see, that's why I say in our country, the politicians, especially those in power, they forget that they are servants of the people. That moment that you are at the National Assembly, you are talking to your bosses, people who are representing the people that voted you. So you explain in details if they want you to. And if they say, oh, we're not satisfied, you go further to explain in details. And that's what he played, that's what he did in the video you just played. He was talking to them, explaining to them, answering those questions and all of that. But here, now that he's in power, he begins to arrogate too much importance to his position.
Thank you very much. Mazi, did you notice that the Festus Keyamo question mentioned, don't forget he is a lawyer.
A senior advocate of Nigeria,
for that matter.
Yes.
And he mentioned that the role of the National Assembly is to investigate.
Yes. That's oversight.
That's oversight. That's one of the roles, yes, of course. And then, but it is not to the extent that they direct. They give directives to the executives.
No.
It's National Assembly.
But directive has not even been given. That's why I said he should have given room for them to give him directive. Before he will now come out and shout, oh no, the directive they gave to me, I will not do it. They hadn't even given him the directive. They were still questioning and all of that and said, okay, can we have a private session? Like the CP said, clearly the truth of the matter is that when you are before the parliament, right, by all means, comportment is needed. You need to comport yourself. If you don't agree with them, agree with them respectfully.
Keyamo said, before now, they had accused him that he is not following procedure to achieve that program that is in question. The 774,000 people to benefit these work, these jobs that the federal government under NDC are going to be giving out. The Parliament, the National Assembly, accused him. So they accused him publicly.
Yes.
And so he wanted a situation where he too will address the matter publicly.
They accused him that he did what?
He's not following the procedure or whatever the thing is. So he wanted to say it clearly so that it's transparency.
No, that's not what.
Anyway, we're going to come back to that.
I'm
we're going to watch another clip just after a few discussions. We have. I want us to find out from you what kind of consequences, as a matter of fact, would this kind of a situation pose in leadership? I mean, can we dissect a bit of it?
It just exposes the fact that this is not about the people. It's about themselves. The so-called project, if it was about the people, why don't you explain it out? What's the shouting match for? If it's about the people, let it be obvious. It's unfortunate, but sincerely, I hope Nigerians, can correct it when the next opportunity is made available. I hope we can correct it. It simply shows that there was no plan from this government. So many things have gone wrong. It's not just the Ministry of Labor. What of the humanitarian affairs? The so-called palliatives that they said they shared, did you get any? Do you know any that knows any that got it? So much about secrecy and fraud and deceit that is going on within the government.
How much are they even talking about giving this 774,000 people that are going to get jobs?
What I even wonder is
20,000 per month.
How much, sir?
20,000.
And the project is for 3 months.
It's for 3 months.
20,000 for just 3 months?
Yes.
Yeah.
For 7,774.
And they're excited to see that that's a project.
You asked about the implication of this.
Yes, please, the consequences.
For me, the consequences are that next time there will be a better understanding between the executive and the legislature in terms of communication. So that by the time you are inviting a minister, he has also some schedules to attend to. It's better for National Assembly to communicate in advance the kind of meetings they want to hold with the minister they're inviting. So that when you appear before them, there will be no issue of saying it is there. They will ask you to go in a private session. Yes. Because when you are in the private session, so many things could happen to you that nobody outside could know. And when you come out to even address the press, yes, people will believe you, but the National Assembly members may come out to again deny that this is not what was discussed in the private session. So for me, if we're inviting a minister for the future, it is better to explain to a minister that as you are coming, we need 15 minutes private session with you based on these areas. And then if you are not sure you can honor it now, come with also the private session, either with the chairman or the 2 committees or with all the members that are going to be present when you also can have the time.
That's right.
So that next time we should be able to have a harmonious meetings between the executive and the legislature. Yes, we talked about accusation of Mr. Keyamo based on whatever he was doing, and the selection processes.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, there's no process that is not shrouded in secrecy, and there's no process that someone as a minister may not want to do. But 2023 is still very far from here. But every other thing, every infraction in government today, people are talking about 2023. So for me, Keyamo doesn't have a presidential ambition for now. I don't see that. I'm not holding forth for him. He may be fronting for someone. Now, for the fact that this project was the brainchild of this government and was composed in the budget that was passed, he's only trying to realize that the budgetary provision for this has not been achieved. Now, it would have been better for this project to continue instead of saying you're running for only 3 months. Maybe these are the areas that this people would have been able to talk to Keyamo that we want this project to go beyond the 3 months because of the present economic situation. You have the COVID-19, people have no work again. So 20,000 is a lot of money for those who are in local governments who now have it for 3 months. But in Nigeria, you can be assured that when projects comes and they tell you there's a time ban, at the end of the day, you discover it still continues. When you look at we had this, when CBN came up with an institution that was supposed to recover debts, the ANCOM. ANCOM was supposed to last for 10 years. But today, ANCOM is still existing, it's still functioning. Nobody has really gone back to amend the law. The ANCOM is supposed to last for 10 years, so it should now become a perpetuity. So this project, to my understanding, is going to also go the same way ANCOM has gone. So selection should be based on such a way that the youth can actually benefit from this, and it's going to help a lot of youth.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're going to allow you to talk again. Let's just take a very short break, Mazi. I understand that you have to watch this video very briefly, then we'll come back and then we'll finalize. We just have less than 10 minutes to go, so we're going to take a very short break to watch the interaction with the Senate with Festus Keyamo. And just please stay with us.
Listen to me. This is not a place to grandstand. 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 We are doing serious business here. How can you expose corruption without the cameras? They are not expecting us. We have many ministers who say Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, distinguished fathers. This matter is straightforward. What we're doing here is constitutional. We're carrying out the constitutional responsibility. We want to ensure your efficiency. We want to make sure you're doing the right thing. While we're doing that, we have the constitutional responsibility also to expose corruption wherever we find it. Listen to me. Listen to me. This is not a place to grandstand. This is not a place to grandstand. We are doing serious business here.
How can you expose corruption without the cameras? I must respond. I must respond to what you said. How can you respond without the cameras?
We have many ministers who came here, so please you can go here and look at this. Yes, you can go. Why are you not getting here before you become a minister? We will take it on with the presidency. Are you better than all the ministers? Bring the program. Let's on the platform. Playing to the gallery does not work here. Playing to the gallery does not work here. That's where you're coming from. It doesn't work here. Am I disturbed? Am I disturbed? This is not public hearing. This is not public hearing. This is not public hearing. All ministers. All ministers. All ministers. All ministers.
insisted of you do it before the cameras, and there's nothing to apologize for insisting we should do it before the cameras. There's nothing to apologize for that. I said do it before the cameras, and there's nothing to apologize for insisting we should do it before the cameras. I do not insult them. They are respected members. They are respected members. But to insist to do things before the cameras, I cannot apologize.
Who has that camera? No, don't.
Honorable Minister, for information, nobody has anything to add. You want to run a program without key performance indicators? Without proper programs? You are not here to answer indicators. What indicators? Nobody wants to talk to you without camera. We have nothing to hide.
What they have not allowed me to say inside, I will say outside. In respect to their invitation to come here for an interactive session, I came here. The background to this was that a couple of days ago, they started mounting pressure on me that I must bring the list of those to select the 1,000 persons from all the local government, must bring it to them, for them to direct me and to direct me as to what to do from state to state. The chairman insisted I must come to them privately for them to hand over to me certain instructions as to how this program will be done across the country. I said no. That will be sharing the powers of the president. I can only be answerable for what I have done by virtue of the provisions of the Constitution. But you cannot direct me. What they are getting wrong there, they are quoting Section 88. We have litigated Section 88 over and over. What they are getting wrong there is that I am questioning their powers to investigate. I am not. I fully concede to the powers of the National Assembly to investigate for the purpose of exposing corruption. And that is the point I made, that they said I must apologize, that we cannot allow the cameras go out. I'm answering to the Nigerian people. They are also answerable to the Nigerian people. I do not see the need of an executive session in a matter like this involving 704,000 Nigerians. I do not see. The Nigerian people, the press must know what is going on.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us. This is the Patriot on television Nigeria. That was a clip that you watched, Festus Keyamo, senior advocate of Nigeria, discussing with the press. Please, Mazi, what do you have to say? We want to finish this matter.
That moment he was discussing with the press, that the parliamentarians were not there. Was that not a private session? That's a private session between him and the press. The parliamentarians were not there to defend themselves. So the same thing he's accusing the parliamentarians of is what he committed. The parliamentarians, were they there to, those things he alleged that they told him to come and do and all of that, were they there to counter it before the press? No.
Now, what if he got into that place?
Yes.
And so
what if? I underline the word what if, yes.
The condition, no, he didn't go in.
He didn't go in.
Now, what if he got in there?
Yes.
Presumably, he was thinking that if he got in there and came out,
they will eat him up there.
They will eat him up or say...
How? How would they eat him up there?
And then the press will say, no, he got in there, and the same press that he is addressing...
And
the same press that he's needing them to have been there so that he can speak and expose corruption or whatever the case is.
If he had gone for that private session, right, and then come out to talk to the press, who will listen to him? But this one he did now, as far as I'm concerned, is badarash. Badarash because... you just accused them, and they were not there to defend themselves.
He wanted to expose corruption.
So how did he expose it there? For me, sincerely,
what was the corruption in the first place?
Exactly. What was the corruption? It is the business of a parliamentarian to represent the interests of his people. And here it was. You were discussing something that would benefit Nigerian people. And the parliamentarians are saying, well, if you don't bring the list for us to understand how my own people, their own interest is captured in this, we're not going to allow it. Come and explain to us.
Is that what the lawmakers were standing for?
Well, that's what he alleged they were standing for. And as far as I'm concerned, sincerely, the aim to expose, that he said he had to expose corruption, was defeated on arrival.
All right,
because he missed a wonderful opportunity to expose the ills in the National Assembly. There are lots of rots in the National Assembly, yes, but he missed an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity to capture it on paper.
Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute much later so that you can finalize and say your final words on this. Now, CSP, sir, they said he should tender apology. He wanted to expose corruption. At the same time, he took a bow. He took a bow and took a bow. At the same time, he said that to him, going in there or to listen to them was like sharing the powers of the president. I mean, that is the summary of what he came out to say. Now, what can you say?
Well, for me, yes, he's right, because this is the project under a ministry. And appointments for this project are supposed to be anchored by the ministry, not the National Assembly. The National Assembly could have only sent their request to him that for the purpose of appointment, we suggest ABCD should be involved so that he can support the even distribution of these names. But because he also came in there with a mindset, he exploded as soon as the opportunity came for him to go into a private session. Secondly, for you to go out and be talking about corruption, I don't think when the National Assembly is suggesting that they want to be part of a procedure, it amounts to corruption. It's only when the procedure has been tinkered with to benefit them more than those who are intended targets. That is when we're talking about corruption. But in the context of this, they are saying that those who are going to be the 20-member committee who are going to select in each local government, they want to have an input in it. This Assembly members could tell you that we want this to be done evenly in all the local government councils or the council wards in their own jurisdiction, so that everybody will be represented. But where I like what has happened is that it is not going to be anchored by any politician at the grassroots level. It's going to be anchored by the religious bodies. So it's going to be a thing that they are going to select use irrespective of political background you come from. So it's going to benefit everybody. So for him to be talking about corruption is a preemptive step. But for him to also take a bow, stand up and start talking again, it also amounts to infringement on the rights of the nation. But after taking a bow, you are supposed to walk away. The same prince he also addressed, he would have done that after meeting them privately and would have still told them privately that I will not bow down to what you are saying. And would have been a very great opportunity for us to know.
But he still bowed down and he was still talking.
Yeah.
And the CSP please, Mazi, I know Mazi will like that part seriously because he took a bow and he was still talking. CSP, you are an expert on fraud and you are also an expert on corruption.
Yeah.
You have dealt with those issues and then you are a consultant in security. I appreciate you. So I want to get to you after Mazi so that I can get your final words on this. No please, Mazi, please, can you react again? I'm giving you this opportunity now. So
I agree. I appreciate that. The point is that the part of, let him apologize, it's neither here nor there, really.
He refused to apologize.
Well, there's nothing to apologize for, really, because he didn't agree with them and they walked him out. Unfortunately, he should have taken that opportunity to just, since they told him to walk out, he should have just taken that bow and walked out. But unfortunately, he didn't do all of that. You could see that, like the CSP said, he had, already perception about the National Assembly. And he came there and expressed whatever he thought he imagined they were going out there to do.
No, he didn't want the politicians to hijack.
Is he not a politician himself?
No. The National Assembly, they hijacked him.
Hijack what? Are they not part of Nigeria? The people that they are going to engage, are they not the representatives of the people that they are going to engage for that work?
Through the ministries, yes. Don't the president have the power to veto and say Ministry of Labor and Employment? Yes. Go ahead and do this. Don't they have the powers except this thing must pass through
it is the business of the president, the executive arm, to do what they are doing. But the oversight, like I said, is what the National Assembly was doing at that moment. The president, the money he's going to use to engage these people is not coming from his pocket.
Yes.
The money was appropriated by the National Assembly. So it is the business of the National Assembly to ensure that the money that they mapped out for this particular project is well, carried out as expressed.
Is that your final
My final thing is that, unfortunately, this government has shown that they're not together. The earlier the government, rearranges itself, the better, so that the people, because they say when two elephants fight, the grass suffer. The people should not suffer because of their ego tripping. Let this ego be dropped and let them put the interest of the people first. That's my final take on this.
Yes, so thank you very much, Mazi. Thank you very much for having you here. So we want to have a last word from CSP. CSP, don't forget that they say politicians are corrupt.
Politicians are not corrupt.
And then also that Festus Keyamo is a brilliant lawyer. You remember the clip? That they're very brilliant. Yeah. And then he doesn't take nonsense, He's a columnist, he writes, and then he's also a social critic. And then he's a crusader at the same time. So don't you think that Festus, as senior advocate of Nigeria, would not have been making mistake if he didn't read the law enough? Don't you think the National Assembly too also have skeletons in the cupboard that he wanted to expose? Your final word, please.
Well, everybody is condemning what he has done, and the National Assembly too. But if I were in the position of the two bodies, both the Keyamo and then the National Assembly, the oversight function is supposed to come after the implementation of this project. That's when they can call for the list, call for those who are there. Yes. And now, when we are talking about corruption also, National Assembly, yes, when you look at the totality of the civil servants as compared to those who are in National Assembly, you discover that those who are corrupt are really not the National Assembly members. Because everything that has to do with appropriation and then disbursement has to be done by civil servants, not the National Assembly. So those who are corrupt, in real sense, are the civil servants. It's not the politicians. Politicians are only told how they can also take out money based on what the civil servants guide them to do. So for me, National Assembly is supposed to do the oversight function after the implementation of this project.
Mazi, thank you very much, Dixon, for having you on this Patriot on Television Nigeria. CSP, I want to thank you very much for coming here.
It's a pleasure.
Your discussion was very beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. Festus Egwarewa Adeniyi Keyamo SAN is a Nigerian lawyer and politician, the Honorable Minister of State for Labor and Employment. He was appointed minister in July 2019 after successfully leading the second-term campaign of President Muhammadu Buhari, the Director of Strategic Communication. He was first assigned to the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs as Minister of State, after which he was redeployed to his present position due to his versatility. In 2018, he was appointed member of the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, an appointment he had to relinquish when he was appointed a federal minister. Festus Keyamo, a lawyer, fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK, social crusader, critic, and a prolific columnist, was elevated on September the 18th, 2017, as a senior advocate of Nigeria. Well, this is all we have for you on this episode of the Patriot on Television Nigerian. You can advertise with us and also sponsor programs on the Patriot on Television Nigeria. For now, many thanks for watching.